Welcome back to another episode of the Men Can podcast. This is the first one we've done back in Australia since, well, probably far out November 2024.
Oh, wow.
So pumped to be here, man.
Mate, I'm honoured.
Welcome to be on the show.
Thanks for having me. I really
So we got
appreciate it.
Oliver Foran, everyone, and you got to check his Instagram out. It's going to be linked on all the places. I don't know how we connected. I think I was following you for a little bit. You must have come up in my For You page on Instagram, and you were posting all these crazy climbing videos in snowy mountains. And for me, I was like, cool shit, cool people doing cool shit. I want to get around that. And then we connected. We went for a 90-minute walk the other week, and I learned a lot about you. And there's so much that I took away that I want my audience to be able to learn. So firstly, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. And vice versa, by the way. Like hearing your story and I guess what you did, how you did it, it inspired me and also gave me some pointers to think about. So
awesome.
Appreciate that, mate.
It's the importance of having a good network, finding people who are doing things that you're interested in and connecting with them.
Yeah.
Because I think all the things that you've learned, the lessons that you're about to share, I took away so much from you as well. I'm like, oh, how could I implement that into my life? Or I never considered you would have to go through that while, climbing mountains if I ever want to do it, which probably won't happen if my wife has anything to do it. But Oliver, you've faced death zones, avalanches, ice walls, but what's been the hardest mountain that you've had to climb mentally?
Yeah, definitely. The hardest mountain that I've had to climb mentally was probably my first major roadblock and challenge in life, and that was the death of my mother. So she passed away when I was 15 years old, and it was quite a drawn-out process as well. So going from having, that normal, typical Australian family life, which was amazing. We weren't the richest family, but we had a lot of love in our house, and that's the most important thing. And then having that kind of turn upside down at 15 years old and having to navigate that was really hard. But saying that challenge kind of set me up for bigger challenges that came later in life.
Yeah. What was it for? So 15, you said? 15. Yeah, that's extremely young. I'm very lucky to still have both of my parents still here. How was it? You're obviously going through puberty and becoming, I guess, a young man at that point, to lose such a big role model and member of support in your community and your family. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, it was hard. It was fight or flight for a while. I had great support around me. Aunties and uncles, friends and family really, stood out and helped us. But yeah, your mum's your mum, right? And losing your mum has a big impact on you as a kid, definitely. And my little brother was 9 years old, and my sister was, I think she was 13.
Yep.
So, I was at least a little bit older. For them, it was even bigger than me, in my opinion.
Did you notice it shifted you in a way to want to look after them more or step up? How did that influence the family dynamic?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I just, kind of wanted the best for my brother and sister, so would do anything for them from that moment, even more so than before. I just think you want to protect them, right? Yeah, and being 15, you're going through puberty, you're becoming a young man.
Yeah.
So you've got a little bit more, I guess, testosterone running through your body.
Fired up.
Yeah, exactly. So it was challenging, but I think, those challenges make who you are. So.
Yep. And thinking about it now, so you're 26,
Yep.
right? So 11 years on. How do you feel with the way that you conduct yourself and the man that you've become and the man that you're striving towards becoming? Your mum would be thinking about you.
Yeah, I hope she'd be proud. I'm sure she would.
Yep.
She'd probably be rolling in her grave a few times with all the stuff that I've been doing.
Yep.
But I think, she'd be very proud of the lessons I've learned along the way and how I've kind of taken something that could have, sent me down either way and hopefully done something positive with it. And, the end goal as well is, you go through this, you learn, and then you go back and you help someone else who's facing that adversity.
Yeah. Why do you feel, I believe everyone faces a fork in the road moment, and the significance or severity of it varies for each individual. You obviously had your fork in the road, as you just mentioned. You could have gone one way and you chose to go what we view as a positive way. Why do you feel you went the positive way instead of I guess, spiraling? Because you do hear a lot of people who do spiral out of control.
Yeah. Well, it's not saying that I didn't. Like, I definitely dipped my toe in that spiral.
Little dippy,
Yeah.
little dip.
And then I think conscious was a big thing. And also, like, I put it in perspective and I was like, my mum wanted to set me up with a good life. She wanted to give me all the opportunity. Like, we were a single income household. My mum looked after the family. So she was trying to give every opportunity for us she sent us to a private school, I own a college. So she was trying to give every opportunity for us to live a good life. And then I thought, why not still honour her and live a full life, you know? But my version of full back then is not my version of full now.
What's the difference? What was it like back then to now?
Oh, back then was just, having a good job, working hard. And, you know, since I dipped my toe in the mountains, it's all mountains.
How'd you get into dipping your toe into the mountain? Because that's a big dip, right? I haven't seen any version of my life where I dip my toe in the mountains. Even though I love watching it, it just hasn't come up for me. So how did you end up there?
So originally I was just traveling.
Yep.
I wanted to travel. I worked in real estate for 5 years prior. And then, went overseas, went to Europe, Africa. I had a wedding for a friend in Asia, in Bali, and then I ended up in Vietnam. Now, in Vietnam, I was rock climbing, and I met an American guy, and he was a mountaineer. And then we ended up getting along, so we ended up getting an Airbnb together, spending a bit of time, and this guy was just like influencing me, telling me how crazy these stories were. And I feel like I'm an extreme personality, and I was like biting hard. I was like, this is awesome. So then, anyway, booked a ticket to Nepal. Like,
as you do.
Just
get baited and then you're like, I'm doing it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you've inspired me, let's do it. And then I was fit because I was training for our army.
Yep.
So I was in really good shape. So I thought, hey, I'm in good shape, got this opportunity, I'm already in this on this side of the world.
Yep.
Let's go do it.
So hold on, you were in real estate, you'd been in real estate for a number of years.
Yeah.
And then you're also training to get into the army?
Yes.
Yeah, so obviously your passion wasn't real estate at the time, would you? Or?
I loved real estate, yeah. But real estate to me was not, like, I wanted to push myself physically, right? I wanted to see, like, how far I could go physically. And I think that, you know, ties into a little bit of my past as well, just wanting to see where that limit is.
Yep.
And real estate's such a good career.
Yep.
But I wasn't fulfilled physically. You know what I mean? So
why not stay in real estate and then sort of dabble in the other things? Why go all in?
I think that's just my personality. Yeah. I think I just decided to dive head first and learn to swim on the way. I think as well, if you don't do something to the fullest, you're not going to have the success in it that you want, in my opinion. And I saw myself kind of focusing away from real estate while I was still in it. And I thought, obviously this is not where my heart is. It's time to readjust and look at something else. And then that was actually the military.
Right.
Yeah. So
that way you could sort of have career progress, but then the physical challenges as well.
Correct, yes.
That's cool. I love that even though you didn't dislike it, because quite often the narrative is find your purpose or build a career in something that you love, meaning you hate where you currently are. But the fact that you really enjoyed real estate and still were looking to pursue something greater is very interesting to me, because a lot of people wouldn't do that. Yeah.
It was a tough decision nonetheless. Like, financially, it was probably the worst decision I could have made. But I feel like in the long term, your passions run deeper, right?
Definitely. And the stories that you have to tell. Were people in your life, so your dad's still around, yeah? So your dad and your brother and sister, and I guess even colleagues, what were they like when you said, hey, this is what I'm going to do? Yeah,
well, my business partner, Chantel Joyce, who's a very good friend, she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, no, but I will give it my best crack anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. And like Dad, my whole family's like, are you sure? And I'm like, no, but let's do it anyway.
Where did that belief come from for you to set out and go into this unpredictable situation where you don't even know how you're going to get paid or whether you can even do the hikes, but you did it. And obviously you're walking away from a career. Where did that come from?
Well, I guess you have to look at what you've got and what we've got here, especially in like our country and, you know, most of the western parts of the world, is what's the worst thing that can happen? You know what I mean? And this is what I kind of leveled with myself with. I was like, what is the worst thing that can happen from me just taking this leap into the unknown? The worst thing is it doesn't work out, and then I go get a job again in real estate, and I just start again from the bottom and work my way back up, but with the knowledge that I learned over the last 5 years. It's a beautiful place. I love Brisbane. There's no better place to start from the ground.
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
You know what I mean? And I thought, what's the best thing that can happen? I get to create this amazing life where I'm going on adventures. I've always been an adventurous person, seeing things that not many humans will see. That's, to me, like worth the risk, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
And so you went to Nepal then. So talk us through that first hike and getting ready for it. So you had old bud just, I guess, baiting you to go do it. And then obviously the adventurous personality with him was like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And here we are. Take us through the next steps there.
Yeah, mate. So basically I flew into Kathmandu.
Yep.
And I was talking to this guy that I saw on Instagram, and he had like a small trekking company there. And he's basically meets me at the airport, takes me to Kathmandu Guest House, which is like a traditional but really cool hotel full of like mountaineers. And I just got there and I was looking at these guys. I was like, whoa, this is cool. And everywhere around the Kathmandu Guest House, it's in a part called Thamel.
Okay.
It's just like these knockoff trekking, North Face, La Sportiva, just like all this apparel. And I was like, all right, I'm going to buy all this stuff. So I bought all the gear. It was all like definitely not official, but I bought it all. And then a few days later, we set out to the Himalayas for the first time, which was awesome.
And at this point, what was your level of experience and what was going through your mind?
Yeah, so I've done like a lot of trekking and a lot of hiking prior to this in Australia and traveling around different parts of the world as well. But never, and like climbing as well. I've had like a bit of a rock climbing background, but never mountaineering. So I told him I wanted to climb a 6,000 meter peak and I wanted to trek to Everest Base Camp. So I was very nervous, but excited.
For me, I'm freaking out just thinking about it because I've got visuals on your Instagram of you hanging off like the side of mountains and stuff.
Yeah.
But so when you're getting prepared for that, like what are some of the stuff that you need to have that I guess is important or crucial to your survival on the mountain? And is it just you or are you going with a team of people? You mentioned there was a heap of other mountaineers and people.
So it was just me with a guide.
Yep.
And then a porter. So we called them captains. So the captains carried our duffel bag.
Yeah, right.
And then we'd carry probably like a 10-kilo pack. And then my guide as well was with us as well. So it was 3 of us, which was really cool because got a really authentic experience of what it's like up there. And we like the big ticket items for then was like a proper down jacket. I think that's something that Australians we don't really need. So trying to figure out what was the right one and everything was interesting experience.
Because what temperatures are you in? Like, are you moving in?
Well, that expedition, we got down to like negative 30 degrees on our summit push because it was like the end of November as well. So it was coming into winter there, and it was cold. But like average temperatures would probably be like in the negative 5 to 10 range.
Wow.
So it was cold.
And so what mountain were you summiting here?
It was called Island Peak.
Island Peak, okay.
Yeah, so it's about 6,189 meters.
Bloody hell. And how long does that take?
Yeah, so this one took, from base camp to the summit and back, we were about 16 hours all up.
Yeah, right. So did you have to do it overnighter or you just hit that in one?
Just one push, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I was legless by the end of it.
I can imagine. So the altitude and stuff, like what's that like? Had you done any altitude training or anything before? You just sort of rocked up fresh face with a big grin on your face, ready to rumble?
Definitely altitude training so important, as I found out. I rocked up with a fresh face, ready to rumble, and we flew into Lukla, which is that sketchy airport that you see on all those videos. And that's at like 2,700, and I just remember being like, "Whoa, I've got a headache already."
Oh, dude, how do you push the body through that? Like you at altitude, you're going higher, your oxygen's thinner, your head's probably pounding, and then you're also exerting yourself physically. Like, were there moments there where you wanted to quit that?
Yeah. Definitely more so the first time I went up than this recent expedition, but it's just, you just take it slow, right? Like, we're moving so slow. We're moving very far and for long periods, but your heart rate's not, you're trying to not keep it above like 140.
Yeah, right.
So you're moving slow, drinking lots of water. Like, water's key up there. It's so important to stay hydrated. And we didn't take any altitude medicine or anything then. So there were definitely times, like there was a time, so when we got to Everest Base Camp, we were like just down like the path from that rock that everyone gets a photo on. And I actually like ended up blacking out a little bit from the altitude and came back and everything. But it was just like, whoa.
Do you remember that experience? Like when you in the lead up to it, like, I don't know whether you were starting to see dots or anything like that?
Yeah. So I remember like my vision started blurring. And then I was like, oh, I'm probably just like tired. And then I just remember like kind of collapsing and just going black and numb and then coming back. And I was like, oh, I need to get down.
How dangerous is that on the mountain?
Yeah, very dangerous. Very dangerous, yeah.
So you obviously, even in that period, had people with you who can, I guess, rescue you should you need it. But when you're pushing to that level, that's base camp. How many other camps are there going up Everest? Like 3 or 4?
4 others, yeah.
And while you're climbing that, because I know we'll talk about this shortly, what's up next for you. But if you were to then hit the next couple of camps, do you have to stay there and climatize, or do you just
Yeah. So this is the cool thing about mountaineering is like once you learn, right? Because you don't want to do it again.
Hopefully that happens in other areas of life for people. Yeah. Like once you learn, you're like, good.
Yeah, you take that lesson. But yeah, acclimatizing, like we call them rotations, and it's when you say you're at base camp, and then we'll climb to camp 1.
Yep.
You spend a few nights there, and then it'll be tough. You'll feel it. You'll definitely feel it, but then you come back down.
But that time while you're acclimatizing, you're sort of just hanging out. Are you doing much physical stuff, or just you get there?
A lot of the time you're just hanging out.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, because you just want to give your body time to, I guess, adjust to its environment, because it is struggling with the amount of oxygen that's up there. It's very thin, so your body is having to produce more red blood cells.
How incredible is the body?
Mate, it's wild.
To push that and adapt.
Oh, it's crazy. And then, like, as we'll talk about a bit later, but what I noticed in this recent expedition to Ama Dablam, because that was a lot of intense climbing, is how the body even adjusts to that with low oxygen. Like, it's incredible what your body can do.
Talk to us about Ama Dablam. Like, I know the mount itself, from what we've spoken, is extremely technical.
Yep.
Guys, check out his Instagram. There's some wild footage on there. What was that like? So you did base camp. You did the Northern Peaks. Oh, sorry, what was the first one? The
Island Peak.
Island Peak, sorry.
Yep.
And then, obviously, Ama Dablam. What was it that drew you to that, knowing that it was so technical as well?
Well, so as you'll see, when you get into the Khumbu region, the Sagarmatha National Park, which is the trek to Everest Base Camp, from about day 3 onwards, as soon as you pass the last, decently populated city called Namche Bazaar, you just see this mountain, and it's just in the middle of everything. It's just like this towering peak, and you just can't take your eye off it because it's so beautiful. And I remember asking my guide, I was like, what's that? And he's like, Ama Dablam. And I was like, I'm going to climb that next year. And then he's like, okay. And then, so that first trek to Everest Base Camp and climbing of Island Peak, it's just like we saw it all day, every day. It's like what we were looking at. And then it kind of grew on me. And then as soon as I got back to Australia, I was like, all right, if I'm going to climb this, I need to kick into gear. So I dropped drinking. kind of just started working towards that single-minded goal of climbing that mountain. And I prepped for like 3 months, flew in, and it was the wildest expedition I could have ever asked for.
Before we dive into that, what's the how's that ring through? We dive into that while you're coming back, like you're starting to goal set. How important is goal setting to you?
Oh, massive, mate.
Like, talk us through what your process is around goal setting.
Yeah.
A lot of people, even that I experience with, I speak to people all the time who don't have goals or set them but never achieve them. You've set something that is outrageous, and if it goes wrong, you probably lose your life.
Yeah.
Talk us, I guess, you decided you're going to do it, you worked back, you said you were quitting drinking. What other things did you do, and how did you, I guess, break it down to the point where you're like, I'm confident that I'm going to be able to do this?
Yeah, well, there's always like that, I guess, unknown about mountaineering, but I wanted to give myself the best opportunity to get it done. With my goal setting, so it was the same in my real estate career. I write something down. A lot of the time I set it as my screensaver as well, and I just want to always be looking at that goal. I just want to always be looking consistently at that goal, because I believe if you write something down, it will come true, but you have to read it. You have to keep checking in on it, right? So I wrote down, I'm going to summit Ama Dablam in 2025. And then I set it as my screensaver while I was training. And I just remember checking it over and over and over again. And the thing about goal setting is you have to give yourself like structure around it. You can't just be like, I'm going to do this, but then there's no pathway to it. So for me, it was I needed to go find 2 corporate partners. I needed to train 4 times a week. I needed to run this many kilometers per week. And I just kind of like stepped that out. And now you might not stay exactly to that, and you might not do exactly what you've, I guess, set out in the structure. But by having something to worked with and towards, keeps you accountable, right? So that was my process, is I'll write a goal down, and then I'll put, action points in that I can nail every week, and then I'd look back on it.
Such a important and powerful point is the setting the goal, regardless of how big it may seem, but breaking it down, because that's where you realize it's manageable, or you can have the time, or maybe you need to sacrifice certain things to do that.
Yeah.
And even to the point where you said it did change a little bit and it didn't need to be locked in stone, that plan, but as soon as you give yourself that first small step, that's where the momentum starts. A lot of people spend so much time getting ready to get ready. They want this perfect plan before they do anything. And I don't know about you, but every time I've set any goal that I've worked towards in business, with travel, with adventures, the plan always changes.
Oh, so many times.
And you got to allow that flexibility, because I think if you're too rigid in your approach, I love having the boundaries, like, is this moving me towards where I'm going to go? But if I find a more efficient way, or if I find things that are taking too much energy and too much time and don't have a good ROI, I'm going to get rid of that, because the goal is what's most important. How I get there, it's allowed to change.
How do you set goals?
Pretty much the exact same way as you do. I always look a little bit bigger. Like, I have an idea of what I want my life to look like down the track. And for anyone who's listening who is under 25, I would say maybe don't think as big picture, but I think as you get more life experience, it's easy to say, okay, what's 5 years down the track look like, or 10 years down the track? Because 5 years all of a sudden isn't a big deal. But when I was 18, 5 years is a long time, right? It's a third of your life. So I'm looking at, okay, seasons of life. Eventually I'll have a family. We got mortgages, we got responsibilities. So what needs to happen? How do I need to front load my life to have the experiences that I want to have? Hence, doing things while I don't have children or dependents at the moment. I'm trying to jam as much in, and I know that'll change. Doesn't mean that I can never do those things again when that happens, but there may be different experiences that I want to have. So I've got a bucket list of stuff and a vision for how I want to be as a man and how I would love people to remember me, and
awesome.
All of that. And then every decision I make and every goal that I set that's significant, there's insignificant ones, I ask myself, is this moving towards that, or is it pulling me away? Because you mentioned another thing, writing the goal down. For me, the reason why I do that is it keeps it in line of sight.
Yeah.
Because every single day there's new opportunities coming in, and the more successful you become, as you continue to do more of what you do, there's going to be people wanting your time more and coffees and other expeditions. And it's nice. Like, it's cool to feel wanted and it's cool to have opportunity. But every time you look left or look right at that, you're not focusing on what's important.
100%.
So for me, when I've got it written down in front of me, I'm like, okay, these are the important things. I will occasionally look left and look right if they're from people that I respect or trust or admire.
Yeah.
But majority of the time, it's like, put the blinders on and do what's required to achieve that.
Yeah, and it's not being rude either, but you have a look at the most successful people in any field, and they have the blinders up big time, you know? But at saying that, it is important to reach back and help someone else if you believe that they can get there, you know what I mean?
Definitely. And that's also, for me, 5 years ago, I probably wasn't as focused on that. I would definitely go for a lot of, coffees and catch-ups with people, but I was still trying to get myself to a point where I could breathe.
Yeah.
And I built the life that I am living and the life that I'm enjoying living coming out of a place of, I guess, scarcity and pain. I hated my life and I hated myself so much that I just knew I didn't want that. Therefore, I would do whatever the opposite was of that. And I didn't really know what that was at the time. I was just like, if I don't want to be broke, I need to earn money. If I don't want to be lonely, I need to find love. If don't want to be mentally unwell, I need to get mentally happy and healthy.
Yeah.
And so I was figuring out what worked for me in that process, which meant a lot of trial and error. As I've figured out and found out things that work for me, and I've gotten a little bit older, and this is why I don't think anyone can rush things. I see a lot of people on social media, especially younger people, and this was me. So when I was younger, I thought I had it all figured out, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I just didn't have enough life experience. So I was trying to give people advice and give myself advice that I didn't yet understand. So that's where I think the experience came in, but I needed to get myself to a point where financially I was sweet. I'd done the things that I was essentially trying to tell people to do.
Yeah.
And that took, for me, it took 11 years. I wish I was one of those people on social media who knocked it out of the park in the first 12, 24 months, but that just wasn't my journey.
But the good thing is through, I guess, more time, you learn more lessons. And also what goes into building.
Yeah.
So you don't want to let it go. You don't want to let it slip. You're even more committed than someone who probably did it in a year or two.
Exactly. Yeah. You understand what you've got to lose. And I went to the bull riding on Saturday night. I caught up with some mates I hadn't seen for 15 years, which was cool. They're great lads. And everyone's sort of going through this phase of life where they're cutting back on drinking and other things are becoming a priority. And we all stopped hanging out 15 years ago because we were all together, we were menaces.
Yeah.
And now you're sort of watching them come into different phases of their life and you're seeing them want to change their habits to be better for their families and for themselves. And I think, to your point, it's just you then get to give the opportunity. Like, I was having a beer and having a chat with them, and they were asking me questions like, how did you cut out alcohol as I have a beer? How fun is that? No, but like, how did you change your relationship with alcohol? How have you done this? And I got to ask them questions about things because everyone is an expert in something that you're not.
Yeah.
And you do get to have the opportunity as a young person and definitely as you get older to give back.
Yeah.
Because I think if I can help people have the quality of life that I have, just like I'm sure you're excited to help people have the experiences and adventures and quality of life that you have,
100%.
It's a very cool feeling.
Yeah. Which is that thing about reaching back, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Letting someone else have the experience.
Yeah. Because I think you can't always be the person who's leading. You got to know when to support as well.
Yeah.
And I got to do that at the Toowoomba Grammar 150 year. What was it? I keep forgetting the event, but it was a cool event the school put on. This young fellow was running 100K.
Oh,
I got to help him, and that was awesome. Like, I wasn't really running or doing anything, but I was like helping him with food and cramping and all kinds of stuff. But watching him get to go through that, I'm like, he started the day a very different person to how he finished it.
Yeah.
Much as I'm sure you have with every adventure. What it probably leads into a good question. From obviously 15 when your mum passed away to now 26, so 11 years later, you've done, 3 or 4 wild high?
Three high altitude mountains, yeah.
How has that shaped you, and how would you say you're different to that younger version of yourself?
I would say probably the biggest difference is now I have the belief that I can really just do whatever. Like, I can do anything. And it's not coming from like a point of overconfidence or anything like that. It's just coming from a point of just, if you commit to something fully, you can make it happen. Like, it's crazy when you set your mind to something, you shut out all the noise, as we were talking about, putting the blinders up, what you can achieve. It's fantastic. And I'd probably say the young 15-year-old Oliver Foran didn't really believe that, you know? And I think through seeking out challenge, I kind of learnt more about myself. Oh, okay, when I'm under pressure, I don't freak out. And you start building yourself as a human being. And yeah, I'd probably just say that's the biggest difference from young me to me now. And the mountains and the experiences had on those expeditions and journeys had a lot to do with it. But also just growing up.
Yep.
Yeah, was probably the bigger player in it.
How was it though? So your first step, the bloke who baited you and got you to do that first hike, then obviously that was probably a pivotal conversation in your life that has shaped you into the man that you are today, because a lot of your growth from what you just shared then came through doing the hard things and putting yourself in situations where you could either back down or you could step up and step into who you wanted to become.
Yeah.
How important do you feel it is for people listening to do hard things?
I think it's the most important thing. Yeah, I think we live in a world now where everything's so accessible and easy, and then you take yourself out of it. And like, a good experience is go to a third world country and see how they live daily. There's more entrepreneurs in third world countries than there are in any Western country. It's because you have to think like that there. I think the most important thing is to go seek challenge, or challenge is going to seek you at the end of the day.
Yep. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and actually what I just said then was something, it's just a mantra that popped into my mind when things got hard, climbing Ama Dablam, and it just kind of stuck around. And it kind of has so much meaning to what I believe a human needs to do to live a life that's fulfilling.
That's so good.
Yeah.
What's Ama Dablam? I know there were some wild things that happened on there. What was a moment on that trek that had significant impact on you?
Yeah. There was one standout moment, and that was we just climbed Loboshay East Peak, which is another 6,119 metre, I believe, peak near Everest. And then we trekked the next day that same day, back to, I think it was Farish, and then we went to Ama Dablam. And when we got there, we met this amazing group of people and became like friends, base camp family straight away. And there was a lovely Austrian father, daughter, and son-in-law. They were by far the most complete and, in my opinion, best climbers at base camp. So we were kind of all leaning on them because there were some problems with ice covering some of the ropes, so we needed to go fix a new route, which the AK Sherpas ended up doing. But they were the ones that were going to go open it up by climbing it, right? So they went. We were meant to go the day after, and yeah, unfortunately, like, they did it in an amazing time, but unfortunately, the papa fell from the top 1,500 meters and unfortunately passed away. And it was just our team left in base camp. Everyone else was on the mountain. That put everything in perspective for us. That was so hard.
What was going through your mind when you got the call and found out that had happened?
Well, first it was, we need to get the daughter and the son-in-law off the mountain ASAP, which we, thanks to our team leader Gesman, ended up organising very quickly. And then it was just like, they were the best. I'm not even like an eighth of a climber that he is, you know?
Yep.
And I'm got to go and do this soon. So I would lie if I said there wasn't like a little bit of like shock and self-doubt creeping in, but it got stamped out very quickly as well.
How did you stamp it out? Because when we were on the run and you were telling me that story, in my mind, I have never been in a situation like that. Like, I've pushed myself in so many different instances, but I don't think they've ever been life or death. And so what you do is quite often a lot of life or death situations, and then you see it happen with someone who is a more experienced climber. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, we'll overcome it. I basically decided to flip my mind and just start thinking positively about the mountain again. That was a big thing because that one event sent pretty much 75% of the climbers home. Also, the weather turned, didn't make things easier. That just happened, and there was probably a 2-week waiting period before the next opportunity to go and climb. So most climbers said, nah, that's not going to happen. We'll come back next year. We'll come back later this year. And I just went, I feel like there is an opportunity here. And we kind of spoke about it as a team. We spoke about what happened. We spoke about things that we could work on, and safety was a big thing. So we made a new plan, which involved more of a staged approach to climbing the mountain, not just pushing from Camp 2 in one push to get up and down, which takes like 28 hours with those conditions.
Okay.
We're like, all right, well, let's bring a tent up. Let's pitch a tent at Camp 3, which is very sketchy. But if we can get a few hours of rest there, get some food in, get some calories in, then we will have a good chance at pushing. And at the end of the day, stepping back and not being emotional about it and being like, how can we build on this? How can we learn from this and move forwards? Which was tough, you know what I mean? Because it's such a sad thing. And just to have to take the emotion away only a few days later and make a plan on how to actually make it happen was different to anything I've had to do before. But we built the plan. We ended up doing the climb and summiting. And it took everything I had as a human.
Why didn't you quit? 75% of people are walking away. You're probably seeing them leave in droves.
Yeah.
What was it within you that decided you didn't want to quit?
I'd probably I'm a bit of an extreme person. I would say that had a lot to do with it, but also I just had belief that it was possible. You know what I mean? I was like, other people have summited this mountain this season. I'm going to be one of them.
Even when the bad weather came in, was that just another hurdle for you to overcome?
Yeah, that was the most tedious 2 weeks. It was crazy because the mountains are alive. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Like, the tragedy happened, and then the mountain just snow, wind. Like, we were getting 20 centimeters of snow for like this following week, and then a little bit into that second week as well. And it's just like it wanted no one up there. And then we were just patient. Like, there was a lodge that was probably 10-minute walk from base camp. So we'd go stay there for a few nights to get a shower in and like a proper shower and all of that. Then come back to base camp and play cards, hang out. And like, we checked our gear 48 times. And it was just a huge test on resilience and patience at the end of the day.
Do you feel there was any pressure to prove yourself as well at this point while you're going up the mountain? Obviously, when you didn't really have, from what you shared, have too many people as you're leaving real estate doubt you or tell you you're an idiot, but they're just like, are you sure? And you're like, nah, but we'll figure it out. Was there any, I guess, pressure of people or expectation or perception back home that drove you up the mountain as well?
Not really, to be honest. I feel like I've got some amazing people in my corner, and they, like, when I make a decision, I think through their experience, it's like, he's going to do it. Doesn't really matter what we say. So they supported me, and they were like, if you think this is the right decision, I can guarantee, like, behind closed doors, they're like, get back, get off this mountain right now. But I kind of made the decision that this is what I wanted to do. And this was going to be my testing ground to prove that I can do it.
Yep.
Because, yeah, like, all the stuff that happened, it's huge tragedy, but it was one of those moments where we're like, if you're going to do it, you're going to need to give everything you got and more, and then you might get it. You know what I mean? There were no guarantees, but the stage was set, and I just wanted to take that step.
So awesome. Like, I get so inspired because especially when there's opportunity to quit, and I don't think people would bat an eyelid if there was a death or even the change in weather. It's very easy to people just go, oh man, like, there were so many things out of your control, and you allowed them to determine your outcome.
Yeah.
That's how a lot of people live life. They live life, I guess, reacting to things out of their control, and they get pissed off by them, or they allow them to determine their results. Where in this situation, which was literally life or death, you still chose to be in control.
Yeah.
As challenging as it was, you said you started shifting your approach to viewing the mountain as still a fun experience and something that you were capable of. And I'm also sure that evidence of hiking the two previously, had taught you some skills and got you comfortable in that moment. You didn't just go to the crazy one.
No. I learned a lot those two previous climbs, and I was very lucky to have almost like a mentor who was our team leader, is Gesman. His skill in the mountain is like skill and strength, second to none. So it was good for me to know that we had him in our corner as well. And then my climbing partner, a Lithuanian guy, Andy, also very strong. And Gyan, it was just Gyan and I who ended up summiting.
Yep.
One of like the most humble, kind, but powerful human beings I've ever met. So I was like, there's a team of 4 here. We're taking on the risk management quite well. We're building a new plan. We're all strong in our own ways. A lot of them physical. I'd say my biggest attribute was my mental strength. And I was like, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's still here. We're still in the season. Like, I believe we can. And that's not to say that, like, if the mountain said no up there, we would have turned around. But I think because we waited it out, it threw us a bone.
Yep.
And then we just made best with it.
Just chewed on it. Got it.
That's it. Yeah. But it all came down to the team, hey?
How important is team? Like, talk us through what you're looking for when you're putting a team together to do what you do. Like, what attributes are you talking about? You mentioned strength. You mentioned your best ability was your mental. Like, what else are you looking for when you're assembling a team?
Yeah. Well, people that aren't just going to give up when things get hard, because there is one guarantee in the mountaineering, and it will get hard. At some point, you will have a massive headache. You could be a little injured. It could be like negative 20, 30 degrees. You'd be in a blizzard. Like, it is going to suck at some point. But you want to surround yourself with people that aren't just going to throw the towel in, right? And not saying that throwing the towel in is a bad thing, because it's very smart in the mountains if it does get a bit too wild. But also, like, you don't want someone at the first sign of danger that's just like, no.
See ya.
Yeah, I'm done. So that's probably the most important thing when building a team, is just finding people that have that resilience, and also people that you can trust. You know what I mean? Because, like, so Gun and I went to push for the summit. It took us 9 hours we left at 12:30 and we got up there at like 9:55, so just over 9 hours to climb to the summit.
Hold on, you're leaving at 12:30 in the morning or midday?
Midnight.
Far out.
Yeah, and like, so it's funny. You climb on blue ice and it's like this, right?
So what's blue ice is slippery as shit, is it?
Yeah, that's the crampons. So you just using the front crampons for hours and hours.
And when you were using those, are you kicking into it or?
Yeah. So you're like chipping away and just trying to get it in there. I was lucky, like mine were quite new, so they were still very sharp. So it kind of took me 1 or 2 kicks to get in there. But yeah, you're just kind of like chipping away at it, hours and hours and hours of just climbing uphill.
How the quads feeling booting into a bit of ice non-stop?
Oh, it was more the shins. My shins were like black when I came down.
That's nuts.
Yeah. But yeah, and Gun and I, like, this is, that trust thing again, right? So the last 200 meters before the summit, like, we'd just been going up and down over these hills that we thought were the summit for hours, and then we finally, like, see it there. And the rope is buried in ice. And we're like, oh no. So we looked at each other and it wasn't as steep as the rest of it. Like, we were kind of almost there. So we tied into each other and we just walked it, which was a bit red hot because we weren't on any fixed ropes or anything towards the end there. But we wanted to get to the summit. I trusted him. He trusted me. And we did it, which was awesome.
What was it like when you summited? So you said, 6,000, how many?
812, yeah.
So just shy of 7,000.
Yeah.
Far out. What was it like when you summited? Talk us through that.
Probably the most beautiful moment of my life, ruined by me falling asleep as soon as I got there.
As you do.
Yeah. I got to the top and I was like, whoa. I sat down and and just like went to sleep for, I think it was probably like 5-10 minutes, and then Garn's like, wait, take it in. We're not going to get back up here for a while, so.
Oh, fucking hell. And then so when you woke up and like we're just looking around, what was going through your mind?
Oh man, I was just like, I can't believe that we just did this. Like, we overcame so much adversity to get to this moment right now. Like, this is just wild. And like, we had this clear view of the peak of Mount Everest, and it felt like there was nothing else up there except us, the mountain that we were on, and Mount Everest. That's just what it felt like. It was just this wild feeling of energy and connection, and yeah, man, I was just taken back. Like, so much respect for that area and just that part of the world. I just think it's something that if you can get a chance to, go and have a look at, because man, there's some big things in this world.
Yeah.
And these mountains are some of them.
Yeah, I have no intent on climbing them, but I'm keen to see them.
Yeah.
You've mentioned, like in social posts and stuff, climbing for your mum. Would you be open to sharing, I guess, what that really means to you? Because you have obviously touched on who you want to become for her, but when you obviously doing the things that you're doing with, I guess, your mum in the back of your mind, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, it means a lot, mate. Being able to do these tough things, and I do them for myself, but I do them for my mum as well. Which leads on to what I'm wanting to do, turn this into, which we'll talk about soon. But being able to do this for someone, I think, makes it even more powerful, right? And yeah, I always just wanted to make my mum proud as a kid, and I was like, well, I think this is a pretty cool way to do it, and I enjoy it. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Good on you, man. Like to see people who are executing these things is inspiring. Knowing a small fraction of what you've had to go through to do it, and it's not always just the physical things that you have to endure. The biggest challenges, I think, are the mental, because the mind controls what happens next. You know, obviously dealing with the loss of your mum, then being on a trek where someone actually passed away, like the things that I feel would go through my mind would probably stop me. So the fact that you were able to tame the mind and get those physical challenges overcome as well, like, it is so impressive.
Yeah, I thought about this, and like at base camp, I was definitely, I reckon, in my opinion, the most inexperienced climber there, one of them, and it definitely was not one of the strongest. You know what I mean? Not even close. There were some amazing human beings at base camp, but I just think my mentality got me over the line at the end of the day, and just being able to put up with a bit of suck. Well, a lot of suck.
Yeah, plenty of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And it's kind of a cool leveler as well. Like, if you have the right mentality about things, you can do some amazing feats as a human being.
How do you train your mind? Is there anything that you do?
Now, yeah. I guess when I was like building it up, not really. I think it just kind of came from having these massive traumas in my life and just trying to navigate them. And yeah, like losing people that are close to you is probably one of the hardest things in your life, but it's one of the best things for building mental resilience and everything like that. And I've had a few terrible cases over the years, so I think it's just, unfortunately, some of it's attributed to that. But more recently, like, I gave up drinking, which was a mental challenge as well, because like being an Aussie, and I've got an amazing bunch of mates, and it's hard to not just go have a beer all the time with them, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think just anything, mate. Like, and the biggest thing is, like, if you want to do something, but you know it's going to be bad for you, training your mind is not doing that.
Yeah, simple.
Yeah.
It's that simple. But then that's where the challenge, right? It tests the mental, not so much the physical action that you're taking.
Yeah, 100%.
What was it like coming down the mountain? So you fell asleep on top, then you get to take it in. It's this euphoric feeling. Is it easy to get down, or what's it like going down the mountain?
No. So coming down is very, very hard. So we came down to Camp 3, and at Camp 3, I was absolutely ruined. So we decided to spend a night there. And then when we spent the night there, we had a massive snowstorm come through, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life. Yeah. So we just had like massive winds. I'm not 100% sure what the kilometres per hour was, but it was wild. And like my zipper, like I don't know if it ripped open or froze or something, but it was just open all night and I couldn't shut it. And we were just getting pounded by just like ice and snow, and everything was frozen. And I still have nightmares about that night. Hey? I recorded a message of being like, this could be it. I love you all. And I was just...
So that was probably a point where you're like, I could die here.
100%, yeah. It was the scariest moment of my life.
What's it like being that close to death where you actually record a message? Like,
well, the next day I deleted it.
Yeah. So stupid. Yeah. Should have kept that, man. That would have been powerful.
I think it might be in my history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a look later. But yeah, it was a lot. I wasn't really thinking of like, oh, I'm doing this right now. I just more like, I had not, because the Sherpas that I was with were in the tent next to me, and it was just my tent that was getting pumped, but I was too exhausted. I didn't think to just move tents as well.
Simple solution.
Yeah, so I'm just going through this, and I'm like, this is the worst. This is it. Which, to be fair, definitely could have been. So Camp 3, right, is on this ridge that's maybe like 2.5 meters, 3 meters wide, and it's just 1,500 meter drops either side.
Oh, dude.
And the thing about up there as well is you can't, like, well, we didn't have any, like, proper way to tie the tent down. Like, these tents were not tied down. So it was just us and our body weight that was keeping them kind of sweet there. And, like, you dig out of, like, a platform in the snow and everything like that. But, man, the wind was wild coming through. So it was so scary. And you just felt like at any point, if it just got underneath, you just goodbye.
Was your team calm in that moment, or how were they sort of?
Well, everything froze in their tent as well.
Yeah,
so
right.
like I had my boots off and I was in my summit suit. I had like all my summit socks on and everything inside of a negative 30-degree sleeping bag. So my body was fine, but everything else in the tent was just, and including my face, was just either frozen or like my face was wind burnt. Like my lips were just like big gashes at this point. Yeah, it was not comfortable. Not at all.
Fuck. That is so crazy, man. Like, people obviously get to see photos of you summiting these things, but very rarely do they get to see or experience the whole stuff that, you know, all the adversity and the moments where you're like, I'm screwed here, that you go through. And so it does, you know, I guess that's the beauty of social media now, is with stories and stuff, you can start documenting more of that, because I even think about it with the 58 marathons. There's no, people can see I was injured and they can go out and run 5K and go, wow, how'd you back up and do marathons day in, day out? But they'll never understand how freaking cold it was for the first 32 days and what it's like being out there for hours at a time with wind and snow. And you just can't replicate that unless you actually go out and do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I wish there was a snow filter on Instagram that you go, just like freezing for a little bit.
Just get a -5-degree blow. Like, whoa.
Yeah, you're like, Jesus, man, that's really cold what he did.
100%. Yeah, but so that next morning, like I just kept saying like, the sun will come up, the sun will come up, the sun will come up. Eventually, the sun came up. We were in such a bad way. Like, I'll show you a photo after this, but it was just like not alright. How we were. We hadn't really drunk water. I accidentally left my water outside of my sleeping bag.
So you had an ice block.
So I had an ice block, yeah. Like, the boots were frozen, so we had to like thaw the boots out to get them back on, and they've got boa twisters, or I think they're connectors or something. So I couldn't turn the boa because it was frozen. So yeah, we were in a bad way, and then we called the base camp to basically say, hey, we need to get airlifted off this mountain ASAP. Like, we are beat up here. And the heroes that drive those helicopters ended up getting us off, which is cool.
Oh, so you got rescued?
Yeah, we got rescued on the way back down after summiting. Yeah.
What was that like for you? Like, mentally, did you feel like you'd failed in a way, or what was going through your mind?
No, I didn't think I failed. I think then and there that was the right decision. I think I would have paid the ultimate price maybe on the way back down because the conditions just got so bad. So yeah, it was a tough decision to make, definitely. But I think it's, one that I'm happy I made at the end of the day. And it gives me the opportunity to now go and climb again.
So what is next? You always working on something?
Yeah.
What's in the goal book or goal board for you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, all the lessons that I learned from Ama Dablam, I'm going to go and... Well, basically what happened was I want to climb Everest, right? But I want to do it in a way that's going to raise a lot of money for brain cancer. And I got an email from my partners over in Nepal the other day basically saying that unfortunately Ama Dablam doesn't count as like a prerequisite now to climb Mount Everest. It's got to be 7,000 meters or above, which I haven't done yet. So in the next few months, I'm going to go to Kyrgyzstan and climb Lenin Peak. So I can tick that box.
And so what's the difficulty of that climb compared to Ama Dablam? Like, obviously it's higher, but...
It's higher, so altitude would be tough, but from everyone I know that's climbed it, there's a few people that I've spoken to about it already. They say it's not as technically challenging. So I'm really excited to just go there and just... Also, I want to do it in a bit of a different style this time.
What do you mean by that?
I want to carry my own gear all the way to the top. So it'll be with a bigger pack.
How much weight are you looking at there?
Like 18 kilos.
Oof.
Yeah. When you go, so we'll obviously set up a camp 3 and then push. So I won't be carrying the 18 kilos to the summit. I'll leave it stashed at camp 3. But for the rest of the climb, it'll be, the 18 kilos on the back.
Far out. And so have you set a date for that? Or
talking to some local companies over there, it's looking like it's going to be early August. Yeah.
And that's going to be here in no time. And how soon after that? So that'll allow you to qualify for Everest.
Yeah.
And then how soon after that do you plan on doing Everest?
Ideally next year.
Yep.
At the beginning of next year.
And what's the height of Everest?
8848.86. Yeah.
He knows it to a T.
Literally.
And how will you, like, in the lead up for this next one, what's your training look like?
Yeah, definitely. So some lessons I learned up there is we don't, like, if we're getting up to like 170, 180 BPM, we're doing the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or something's gone terribly wrong. So I'm going to really focus on more of that zone 2 space and cycling as well, because there's only so much running that you can do.
Yeah,
before
sure. Your
you start
body
getting
starts
injured.
getting taxed.
Yeah, unless you're Lachlan Stuart.
Just the running man, just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. So biking is going to be probably a big part of it, and just climbing outdoors. Yeah, just way more time at the crags, on the ropes, and just learning all about that.
And you're looking for more brand partners at the moment as well, when I say brand partners, people to, be part of this with you that can contribute, whether it's through finances or connections in some way as well, right?
100%. Yeah.
It's an important part, and I don't think I've spoken enough about it, but I couldn't have done what I did without our sponsors and the support. So even when you have big ideas, it's like you've obviously executed on a couple, and I have done, nearly 7 years worth of challenges before I got my first sponsor.
Yeah.
And because people are, not always, but there's a number of people who ask me, how do you get sponsors? And I think, one, you got to have the runs on the board to show that you can back through, because they want to know invest in you, because generally there's not going to be a huge ROI. It's just their brand's going to be everywhere while you're doing cool stuff. But most of the brands that invested in me just wanted to see some cool things happening, and obviously got behind the mental health cause, which was, a big part of it, and why we're raising funds. You're raising funds for brain cancer. So if there's any businesses or people out there, get in contact with Oliver as well.
Please.
One last question. Please do it. One last question. What would you say to someone who's stuck chasing success they don't even want?
Stop.
Simple.
Yeah. If you don't want it, like, there's no point chasing it. I think I heard a podcast the other day, right? And Will Ahmed, he founded Whoop, and he said, I'm a finance I've got a finance background. That's what I was focusing on. I had no idea about the health, the technical side of things, the technology. But he's like, I listened to that voice in the shower or in the back of the cab after, a dinner out.
Mm-hmm.
Like just that quiet moment. I listened to what spoke to me, and this is what I built. And I just thought, like, that's so incredible. And I want to emulate that, you know what I mean? And I think more people should, you know what I mean? Like, a world filled with people chasing their passions and following their dreams is going to be a happier place than one people just doing what they're told when they're told. And not saying that that's a bad thing at all, but just find what you want to do. And if you want to be an accountant, be an accountant. You know what I mean?
You're the best fucking accountant you can be.
Exactly. And when you're in alignment and you're doing something because you're passionate about it, everything else doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? It'll work itself out. You know what? Like, yeah, that's my biggest takeaway, I'd say.
Yeah. Oliver Foran, everyone, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks, mate.